So yeah, the project process starts only when it has converted a sale to a project. And this step, the first step, could be seen as an internal kickoff if you want to, but preferably the step of the project evaluation is not needed. Because again, here we are going to transfer knowledge from sales to projects, and the more knowledge we had in the sales process, or the better projects was already involved, then this step would be needed less and less for that purpose. But here we also need to verify a few things. Are standard products and services sold? Do we miss any product or service? Are hours correct? Is every precondition set up? Are all the requirements done for? Um, so do we understand the goal of the project? Do we know what the client wants and desires? Those are all things that you need to know in order to create a nice project and make sure that you deliver the value the client wants. But again, the goal should be to not do this step at all, or maybe a bare minimum, and put all of that effort into the sales process. Then the next step is you need to buy materials, probably. If so, you need to follow the purchase process, but most likely we always continue. That's why there's no yes here, because 9 out of 10 times not the full project is blocked, even though you need a few materials, and you can just continue. If it is fully blocked, you can just put the project on hold with status waiting for materials, and wait for the materials to be purchased, and when they're there you can then continue. Um, the next step is probably also not needed if you do work with a project proposal in the sales phase, because then we don't need a template, because we've already done that. If you don't work with project proposals, or you did not choose a template yet, of course we need to do this step. Then we need to compose a project team. So you add your project team members, or potential project members, to the project. Um, you can just add it on project level, not on task level yet. So here we know who is a project lead, who's going to be the lead engineer, who's going to be other project members that will help you do the project. Then we need to create a project plan, or any equivalent, how you like to call it. Plan of approach, project plan, project initiation document, all terms that are used, but decide your own. So we might also need to make a technical design. Maybe you don't do this at all. You can just delete it from the process. And in order for you to comply to ISO, you need to do an impact analysis. We like to do that with UDFs on a particular task category, because that gives you the option to report on it, but also make automations. For example, when there's the impact analysis, and risk analysis gives you a high risk, then you can automatically inform the security officer that he or she needs to be involved. Then, if there's high risks, you need to internally approve it, make sure that those risks are covered or mitigated as much as possible. But yeah, if you don't want to do it, this step is optional, but it needs to be documented. Same thing for this step, because here we know the entire plan, right? We know what we need to do, we know who's going to do it, we know the risks, we know the impact. So now the customer can approve the full plan. But if not, you need to at least inform them about it. Then here we need to actually plan the work. I like to first start off with a high level planning or concept planning. What that is that you basically plan your phases in the time frame it needs to be done, and you do the same thing for a task. But it is important to know that you don't plan tasks, for example, only on a specific day. If it takes one day, no, the scope of a task is a little bit wider, the start and end date, and then later when you do detailed planning, you will specifically plan work on a specific person for a specific date and time. Um, so yeah, that is how we like to plan. I will get back to planning a little bit later when I finish the project process, and of course I will show you how to do that and how to manage it first in a template, because if you do it correctly, the high level planning or the concept planning should be 80-90% done, and you only need to fine tune it in Proxuma, and then the detail planning you of course do in with Service Calls and in Proxuma. But yeah, we will get back to that. So then we can do the kickoff, and again, if you want to do an internal kickoff, you can probably do it here, or you do it here after you've composed a team. You can add that as an extra step if you want to, but this one is external kickoff or the combined kickoff with everybody involved, where of course you will tell everybody, all stakeholders or involved project members, what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, which risks there are, some highlights that we need to consider, and basically everything that is relevant in order for you to succeed. So we've planned the work, we did the kickoff, and then it's time to actually do the work. When the work is done, we would advise you to think logically on how you can fulfill the following stream. When you do the work, like develop, when you test the work, when you accept the work. So in this case, acceptance is done by the client, and eventually, when the client approves, you go to production. That is an ideal scenario. That might not always be possible, especially in MSP and infrastructure. So yeah, you need to think logically for each task. Can I do the full suite of development, testing, acceptance, and production, or is it not possible and you need to do the work and eventually go to production and there a client can approve it? So yeah, again, think logically on what is possible or not. But yeah, once it finally is approved, you can go to production. And there's a few things you need to consider here as well. You do move to production, or when it is on production. For example, you need to update your documentation and your contract services, your assets, your tooling, etc., etc. Those things are all in these comments, which I'm not going to talk about every single one. But when that's done, you need to transfer it to support. If you want to do it perfectly, you have an acceptance criteria list for the entire project. That is a checklist that needs to be done in order for you to transfer it to support, to make sure that, again, here the minimum baseline is covered, and it can be taken into support and maintenance without issues, and that a client will have a soft landing, right? Because first it starts in the sales process. We make promises, the client will be happy, right? Because they're going to approve the quote. Then it goes into the project. You need to make sure you keep that same level of happiness of the client, right? So you need to do a good job, communicate often, make sure you deliver value, and everything runs smoothly. But then the same thing needs to be done by support. So it is important that we focus on that one right here. Of course, contracts need to be updated and some aftercare needs to be done. Probably also need to be on site to do floor walking. But yeah, of course, every project is different and you need to decide that. Then this box around it, it shows which process steps need to be done if you work agile or you do partial deliveries. This box can be a little bit smaller if you don't want to do a kickoff for each delivery or even include planning. That is up for you to decide, but these steps need to be done for each single delivery, and in the end you need to finish a project, of course. So make sure that every delivery has been done, nothing has forgotten, and you do all that administrative stuff, which is not fun, but it needs to be done in order for you to get the full value out of the project. And in the end, you need to do an evaluation. You can do this as big or as small as if you want to, but the bare minimum is to just ask yourself the question as each individual member, is there something that can be improved? If the answer is no, you just continue. If the answer is yes, then you need to define the right action. And that could be create a ticket, create a project, contact a specific person within your organization or your superior, and tell them like, hey, I saw this, please act on it. So yeah, again, can be big or can be small, up to you how you want to do it, but the goal is to continuously improve. And that can be processes, that can be templating, which we're going to talk about after this, but can also be documentation, or maybe how the relationship is between you and the client, or anything else that is relevant. So yeah, that is the project process. And now let's dive into templating, because